The night was supposed to be perfect. The kind of wedding people post about for years. The grand venue, the shimmering lights, the flawless decor. But perfection has a way of cracking when you least expect it. At my wedding, my in-laws mocked my mother in front of 200 people. Then one of them leaned toward a guest and whispered, "That's not a mother. That's a mistake in a dress." My fiancé laughed. I didn't. I stood up, looked around at the sea of polite smiles, and called off the wedding, right there, in front of everyone. The next day, their world collapsed. The venue itself had been something out of a magazine spread. White marble columns, crystal chandeliers, ceilings dripping with moldings the brochure bragged were admired by JFK. 200 guests, each one dressed like a political candidate, polished, smiling, the air heavy with perfume and ego. In the middle of it all stood me and Adam, or rather, Adam, the family's golden boy. To them, I wasn't a partner. I was a symbol. A shiny new acquisition with a good smile and an inconveniently high IQ. I sat quietly, sipping water, waiting for it all to end. Or maybe, deep down, for something inside me to snap. My mother sat beside me, calm, composed, wearing a dress she'd found on clearance and altered herself overnight. Her hair was perfect. Of course it was. She's a hairstylist, the kind of woman who can turn nothing into elegance. Someone nearby whispered, "Did she do her own hair?" Impressive, impressive? Number. Raising a kid alone for 25 years? That's impressive. This was just hair. I flipped through the wedding program. Pages of names, bios, thank yous. Adam's family had whole paragraphs, titles, honors, and endless gratitude for their wisdom and guidance. My mom, just Pam. Hair artist, heart of gold. No last name. No acknowledgement that she raised me alone since I was 3. Without child support, without help. Just a tagline that made her sound like a Hallmark slogan. I closed the booklet, exhaled, and looked at Mom. She smiled. That quiet, tired smile she gives when she's too proud to show pain. Her, "let's just survive this night" smile. Then Ronald stood up, Adam's father. His smile was the kind that always comes with a hidden fee. He raised his glass and said, "Tonight we celebrate more than just a marriage. We celebrate a story of success, of someone rising above their circumstances. Because this is America, the land of opportunity. Even if you weren't born with a silver spoon, maybe just a comb in your hand, you can still make something of yourself." Polite laughter, controlled, rehearsed. I saw Mom's fork twitch. Deborah, Adam's mother, hid a smirk behind her wine glass. Ronald wasn't finished. Not everyone starts from the same place. But if you work hard, you might just end up the bride at a wedding like this, even if your work was once a little closer to the people. Closer to the people. The words burned. My stomach turned. My mother's life, reduced to a campaign quote. He sat down to the sound of clinking glasses. Someone murmured, "Well said." Another toasted, "To America. Trailers to penthouses." Then Deborah stood, smiling sweetly, her voice dipped in honey but carrying venom underneath. "Monica is proof that talent transcends geography," she said. "I've always admired people who take from life not what they're given, but what they've earned, especially when no one ever taught them how." Smile, sip, pause. "I'm sure much of that comes from her mother," Deborah added, locking eyes with mine. "The ability to see beauty in simplicity, to stay connected to ordinary people. That gift doesn't come from diplomas. It's something innate." Golden hands, some might say. Mom set her fork down. Calmly. That was her signal. Stay seated. Don't shatter a glass. Don't give them the satisfaction. My face burned. I wanted to scream, to throw something. But I stayed quiet. Because we don't make scenes. Not in public. During dessert, I overheard one of Adam's cousins whisper, "Is it true Monica's mom isn't even a licensed stylist? Like she just learned on her own?" That's wild. Our gardener plays piano by ear too. Petty, mean, expected. But then came the sentence that broke it all. I was passing by when I heard Deborah laugh softly to another guest. Monica looked stunning. Cooter bride for sure. Her mother, though, I honestly thought she was someone's plus one. That's not a mother, that's Seol. That's a mistaken address. Laughter followed. Quiet, sharp, cruel. I froze. Deborah met my eyes and didn't even blink. Adam laughed. Mom, careful, he said, smirking. Someone might actually get offended. That was it. I remembered him telling me once, if the world ever falls apart, I'll stay. I'll protect you. I'm your fortress. And now? My fortress was laughing. I walked straight to my mother. Let's go, I said. Adam rushed after me. Monica, wait. They're joking. That's just their style. They love you, their style? I repeated. Humiliating my mom with champagne in hand, that's a style now? You're overreacting. It's our day. Don't ruin it. I'm not ruining it, I said. I'm ending it. Mom grabbed my wrist. Honey, please. We can take it. It's just one night, I shook my head. No, Mom. We don't have to take anything. Not anymore, I turned to the room. The quartet went silent. Every head turned. Thank you, I said, voice steady. For the evening and for reminding me exactly who I never want to become. And we walked out. No tears. No yelling. Just silence. The kind that says everything. The whispers started before we reached the door. Is she serious? She ruined her own wedding. Wrong. I had just saved my own life. The diner was open 24 hours, the same one we'd gone to after long days when money was tight and laughter was the only thing that didn't cost extra. It was nearly empty now. A woman in earbuds by the window, an older waitress who recognized us but politely looked away. Mom slid into our usual booth by the wall. I set down her tea and sat across from her with black coffee. She looked at me over her glasses. We don't have to hide, honey, she said softly. I met her eyes. We're not hiding. We're just back at the start. This place had seen everything. I'd sketched my first architecture project here. Mom had once dried my rain-soaked hair with diner napkins. We'd once shared a single slice of cake because we had $6.12 between us. It was here, in this cracked booth with sticky menus and flickering lights, that I first believed I could change the world, or at least buy my mom a lunch without watching the clock. We didn't talk much. The silence felt safe. Mom wasn't one for drama. She never called her struggles sacrifices. Just life. 3 jobs. Mall salon, house calls, late-night kitchen haircuts for loyal clients. She'd foil highlights, dye roots, run errands, and cook dinner without a single complaint. She didn't do breakdowns. She did to-do lists. Dad left when I was 4. All I remember is his voice shouting and the sound of the door slamming. Mom closed it once, and that was it. She never said his name again. We lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment that was colder inside than out in winter. I did homework on the salon floor, between the hair dryers and perm rods. Mom brought me tea in a styrofoam cup and always said, just don't lower your head. That's all I saw her fall asleep standing in a stairwell with grocery bags in her hands. I saw her drink tea from a thermos because coffee was too fancy. And I saw her eyes light up like fireworks every time I brought home an essay. Architecture came to me by accident. A school field trip through alleyways being redesigned for an urban renewal project. Someone asked, why are these benches so crooked? I said, because whoever designed this didn't care about people. Just check boxes. That day changed everything. I earned a scholarship, moved to New York, lived in a tiny apartment where my bed took up the whole room, worked in the library, ate instant noodles, burned out, kept going. By sophomore year, my friend and I launched Urban Bloom, an app that turned abandoned lots into usable community spaces. Small, messy, but hopeful. 3 years later, the city noticed. Then investors. Then real money. Mom never fully understood what the app did, but she'd smile and say, you're making something beautiful. Tough, like your forehead. Then Adam came along. We met at a city planning forum. He represented his family's real estate empire. I represented urban bloom. He talked numbers, I talked people. He pitched commercial zones. I asked why communities needed plazas when they didn't even have parks. Then came the debate, then coffee, then dinner, then the kiss. He once told me, "You treat architecture like art. I want to learn that from you." And I believed him. When I first met his parents, I thought they were eccentric. Now I know the word was entitled. Their house was made of glass, literally. Steel, fountains, LEDs glowing under polished floors. Mom came in wearing her good shoes, holding a box of handmade soap. Deborah took it like she was afraid to touch it. "Oh, arts and all. Did you make it yourself?" Ronald shook my mom's hand. "Thank you for raising such a creative daughter," he said, "especially considering your workload." During dinner, Deborah asked me, "So your company specializes in urban lawns?" "No," I said. "We design public spaces that make people feel they matter." She smiled like I'd handed her a crayon drawing. On the subway home, Mom whispered, "They're not like us. But you're still you." I nodded, tried to believe it. Adam always said, "They joke that way with everyone." But I could feel it. The judgment disguised as humor, the empathy wrapped in condescension. Two worlds, soup in a thermos and oysters on toast. Only one of them ever felt like home. When we came back from the diner that night, it was past 3. Mom went straight to bed. I sat in the dark staring at the skyline and realized something I should have known all along. I hadn't walked out on a wedding. I'd walked back to where I truly belonged. To honesty, to dignity, to my mother. Pam hair artist, heart of gold. Not a punchline. My beginning. And now, my reason to start over, with the door finally closed behind me. The headquarters of Urban Core Group sat on the corner of 2 newly revived streets, once a stretch of concrete and decay, now a monument to everything modern architecture pretends to stand for. Ironically, it was also the very empire my ex-fiancé's family had built, and where they'd soon watch it crumble. When I walked through the glass doors that morning, I wasn't a runaway bride. I was the woman who'd finally come home to her own power. The security guard froze when he saw me. He knew me, the founder of Urban Bloom. What he didn't know yet was that, as of this morning, I was also the new majority shareholder of Urban Core Group. Upstairs, the boardroom was already full. Adam, his parents, a handful of investors in tailored suits. Their laughter sounded like the ghost of last night's toasts. I stepped in quietly, calm, deliberate. They expected tears or fury. I brought neither. Deborah rose first, voice dripping with practiced warmth. "Monica! I'm so glad you could join us." "I'm glad too," I said, "though I'm not here to join anything." I dropped a thick folder onto the table. The room went still. Eyes flickered from me to the papers as I spoke. "Before we begin, there's something we need to update. The voting structure." Deborah laughed softly. "This isn't that kind of meeting." "It is now," I said, "because as of 9 a.m. today, the ownership has changed." I opened the folder. Documents, signatures, seals, proof. Ronald leaned forward, face hardening. "What is this?" "A shareholder resolution," I replied. "New structure. New vote, new conflict of interest policy. As of today, Urban Bloom holds 52% of the voting shares of Urban Core Group. 3 shell entities, months of quiet negotiations, layers of legal firewalls, all clean, all legitimate. Call your lawyers," I added. "They'll confirm it." Ronald shot to his feet. "This is personal." A tantrum over a wedding. Deborah pressed a hand to her chest. "We welcomed you. You were like a daughter to us." "This isn't revenge," I said, voice steady. "I started buying shares the day I discovered you were using my name to pitch projects while leaving me out of every meeting. When my designs showed up in your decks, but my seat stayed empty. I didn't want control. I wanted respect. But when you humiliated my mother, I finally understood. This was never a partnership I walked to the head of the table, Deborah's usual spot. and sat down. So fine, I said. It's a takeover. Their faces drained. From now on, none of you have access to urban core. Not your partners, not your family's funds. This isn't destruction, but aims. It's cleanup. An independent audit of every contract from the last 3 years starts Monday. The silence was heavy enough to bend glass. Adam finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Monica, this isn't you. You said you wanted to build things, not tear them down. I still do, I said. I just learned that sometimes before you build, you demolish what's rotten. Deborah gasped. You used us. No, I answered. You used me. My name, my story, my work. Now you get the real me. Ronald's face turned scarlet. You think you've won? I smiled. No, I think you never realized who was actually driving this car. You were too busy staring at your reflection in the rearview mirror. I gathered the papers, snapped the folder shut, and headed for the door. Behind me, chaos, accusations, panic. At the threshold, I heard Deborah shriek, Adam! You're not going to let her do this, right? He said nothing. I walked out, past security, past the lobby, through a small crowd of reporters. Someone shouted, Are the rumors true? Another yelled, Is this about the wedding? I didn't answer. The elevator doors closed, and for the first time in years, the silence was mine. Within a week, the empire began to rot from the inside. First, a whisper on a small architecture blog, then a headline, Scandal at the Core. By Monday, Bloomberg and CNBC were circling. The internal audit revealed what I already suspected. Millions misused, fake contractors, phantom projects. The city froze payments. Investors fled. One fund manager called it corporate quarantine. Ronald dumped his shares below market. Deborah's mansion appeared on a foreclosure list. The glossy empire they'd built on arrogance was collapsing, one exposed invoice at a time. And Adam? He vanished. Until 9 days later. I was finishing a proposal at Urban Bloom when reception buzzed. Someone here to see you. Says it's personal, I didn't even look up. It's Adam, isn't it? Yes, ma'am. Let him in. He walked in looking like a golden retriever left out in the rain. The same sad eyes, the same helpless charm. Monica, he said softly. I didn't know about the contracts. About my mom, the deals, any of it. I wasn't on the board. They kept me out. I nodded once. He took it as a sign to sit. Maybe it's not too late, he said. I miss you. Not the company. You. I miss you, his voice trembled, but his eyes were scanning the room, searching for a lifeline. Love, Adam, I said quietly, isn't what you whisper when it's convenient. It's what you say when it costs you something. You had your chance. You stood there laughing while they humiliated my mother. You chose silence. I didn't know it would go that far, he muttered. But you knew, I said. And you stayed comfortable. Now I'm choosing too. I tapped my trackpad, sending an email. The city's dropped Urban Core from its vendor list, I added. And so have I. He froze, waiting for some sign of softness. You laughed, I said quietly. At me, at her, at everything that made me who I am. Maybe this wasn't a breakup. Maybe there had never been a real relationship. Just a script I wrote and he forgot to audition for. He opened his mouth, closed it again. I used to think I misjudged you, I said. Now I think I misjudged myself. You didn't want a partner. You wanted a prop. I still love you, he whispered. No, I said. That's not love. Goodbye, Adam. He left without another word, stepping into a hallway full of cameras. Reporters shouted questions. He kept walking. 2 weeks later, Urban Core was officially blacklisted. 2 board members fled the country. Their family name, once a brand, became a cautionary tale. And me? I turned the fallout into something new. We opened a scholarship fund for girls from under-resourced neighborhoods. A foundation named simply the P Foundation. P for Pamela, my mother. The hairdresser who raised me with scissors in one hand and the strength of a storm in the other. At the opening ceremony, the mayor handed me a plaque for urban and moral renewal. Cameras flashed. I took the mic. I didn't grow up with a trust fund or a legacy name, I said. All I had was a mother, a blow dryer, and a belief that hard work isn't weakness, it's power. I'm not here to tear things down, I'm here to build. But sometimes, before you build something real, you have to rip out what's been rotting. The room erupted in applause. That night, Mom and I sat again in our usual diner booth. She looked at me over her tea and sighed. You could have just let it go. You didn't have to do all this, I smiled. I wasn't getting revenge, Mom. I was making it clear. We don't have to hide anymore. Outside, the city lights flickered like stars pretending to be closer than they were. Sometimes I still think about that wedding. The laughter, the insult, the look on Adam's face when I walked away. Not because I regret it, but because I wonder what you would have done. Maybe you'd call it payback. I call it reclamation. I wasn't out for blood. I was just done being stepped on. Me, my mom, our lives. So what do you think? Did I go too far? Or did I finally do what had to be done? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I actually read them. And if this story hit something in you, subscribe, share, and stay tuned. More stories are coming.